Who did we come from? Who participated in creation of the human? Our genotype and our phenotype, generally, was created on the basis of quite sustainable, already existed animal phenotype. Those primates who existed on the earth before the human race had strong endurance and the features which were required to help them survive into the wild and in those climatic conditions which were changed intensively and were inherent to the early stages of the earth development. Those primates were created also for a reason. They appeared under the influence of certain cosmic civilizations, which basically made them for accomplishment of some other physical works in terms of our planet. After all, the creators of the Luvomichesky synthesis direction joined that program as well as the creators of Neo-Luvomichesky synthesis direction. The issue arose to which animal's genotype would be the basis for the further evolution of the current planet. It turned out that the most adapted kind of primates was a separate kind, which proved itself quite resultative, both from the physical perspective, and from the view based on the presence of cognitive skills, learning abilities. On the basis of its genotype, it was agreed to construct the head-control self-consciousness phonotype, which is inherent to many continuums of our planet. The limbic system, paleocortex and archaeocortex remained from that old animal basement. During the transition period towards the nouveau phonotype, it was created a part of prefrontal cortex, which we call orbito, both orbital and frontal parts. For the sense of own uniqueness, individuality, self-awareness, dorsomedial cortex was formed. Ventromedial cortex was performed like a sign of the transition period, because the cortex was protected by the infralimbic system. The cortex is transition because it was created for the purpose of following formation of lateral cortex, which is quite powerful in human development. It is performed by ventrolateral and dorsolateral cortex. Besides, not all areas of ventrolateral and dorsolateral cortex are run now, but only those which facilitate manifestation of the lowest creator's curators. The lowest are from the first, second, third levels of our personalized self-consciousness. As these levels develop, become activated and filled with information as forms, conceptions, which represent those levels, are synthesized, there commence, run, and improve other neuronal ensembles of lateral cortex, which facilitate increase and realization of the fourth, fifth levels of our self-consciousness. They include mostly collective subconsciousness and a part of supraconsciousness. And just in demiotensная forms, the other cortex parts will improve due to presence of rather different composition of amino acids in our organism, which will be widely represented by luvomическое self-consciousness forms. Moreover, our whole cortex will be transformed very much. Orbitofrontal and dorsomedial areas will change a lot in thickness. Amygdala will narrow very much. It will lose its functionality. However, in the lateral area of the cortex, the neuronal layers, especially the third and fifth, will expand and develop to the most degree. Were the luvomические creators who joined that process the representatives of some separate civilizations? Yes, there are separate civilizations. These are us in the future. Did they do it all with assistance of any genetic wave implications? Not in some surgical laboratory? In general, spatiumально, meaning remotely, but through representatives of those creatures, people, who were able to manipulate energy and matter of the current level. Actually, there were human creatures, but they did it through conditions of their self-consciousness, which were governed by their higher interpretations, meaning ours. They were needed in order to proceed the manipulations. Some of manipulations were carried out by wave means, owing to generation of powerful mind forms into certain selected samples of apes, primates. Other species were made here by means of correction of activated genes, activated parts of our DNA in relation to other parts, that is, in relation to the limbic system, paleocortex, archicortex, and so on. Thus, the modular construction itself was proceeded here, in terms of the Earth, but origination of the construction had implemented from more ampliativny levels. First of all, there were created images of qualities, combinations of features. Those formal images of features, combinations were resonationally formed in the current terms of PVK in a sequence into amino acid bases. Those bases were placed into their areas in DNA, into their sequence. Thus it all occurred. There appeared potentially possible and useful formotype for the luvomический type of birvulярность. However, in some scenarios, there happened some multipolarizational variants of separation from that program which had been laid before. That means that every program has its own multipolarization. In some scenarios, it develops in this way. For example, like Iissiidiology is evolving now in adverse scenarios, while there are more favorable terms in other scenarios. The same way there exist the scenarios where heavy planetary cataclysms activated in the animal part of our psychic and physiology. For a long period it didn't allow to activate exactly human part of genome. That is, there was no opportunity for evolvement of dorsolateral and ventrolateral cortex. Ventromedial cortex improved more or less, but it didn't represent all the sphorum forms of the luvomический sort, which are inherent to our luvomический type of birvulятность. For example, conscience was poorly expressed, so duplicity took place sometimes. The same is for empathy. By the way, conscience and empathy are characteristic for animals too, monkeys and domestic pets. They also have active ventromedial cortex. Originally, our genome was created on the basis of animal phenotype, our mixtumner form. Our mixtumner form was created on the basis of animals, but luvomический creators decided to make up some type. 16 types of civilizations were tied up in that process, but except from those 16, there was some of non-luvomический types of birvulятность. Luvomический creators decided to improve this form for any purposes and added necessary fragments to genome. That stimulated development of certain centers in brain, lateral, dorsolateral, and ventrolateral sections of brain. Initially, our genome was constructed on the basis of animal phenotype, which is required for adaptation to climatic changes on our Earth. Yes, because when the program was launched, the ecology situation was being far heavier than now on our planet. It is not about harm of human impact. The matter is the physical state of the planet, alternating volcanic activity, tides, low tides, and so on. Will it be worse if cataclysm scenarios are activated? Depending on how anyone considers them. If you perceive cataclysm scenarios as an opportunity for your own more qualitative revitalizations, death refocusings, амицерациas, so the following scenarios after those cataclysms will turn you to far more and more qualitative opportunities for the luvomический development. That concerns everyone depending on how he or she considers the happening events.